seen it on stage multiple times.
I just want to talk about something that's been on my mind about the balcony scene in Jamie Lloyd's Evita.
Seeing all of this Rachel Zegler stuff of her playing Evita in England right now is just...
I just think people are getting the wrong end of the stick.
And that she's making it her own, and the stage production looks a little different.
But I keep seeing this analysis of the poor people outside getting a show for free while the rich people have to watch it live streamed indoors. And I just think that is kind of an offensively shallow analysis of Jamie Lloyd's direction.
It began as an ordinary night at the theater. A calm crowd lined up outside, ticket stubs in hand, waiting for another performance of Evita to begin, but within minutes, everything changed. First came a few raised voices barely noticeable over the city noise, and a chant, then another, and then it erupted from across the street. And down the block, dozens of people flooded the pavement with handmade sign flags and voices loud enough to shake the theater wall. The words they screamed weren't vague or polite.
I can't even. The sound up in the grand circle was not great, and it is one stage, and it's sometimes used really well and sometimes not so well. Could some of them have enunciated a bit more? Yes, but I think that's as much to do with the sound mix as it has to do with their performances, if not more to do with the sound mix than it has to do with their performances. At first, it felt weird seeing Rachel, who's this kind of really small, very young-looking girl, playing Ava at 26. But as things progress, you realize that that's kind of the point, and it was done kind of on purpose. And then she looks. Jamie Lloyd, first production of yours I've actually...
They were deliberate, piercing, and relentless bring back the real Evita. That wasn't just a critique. It was a cultural slap in the face. The chant echoed through the crowd, gaining strength. As phones came out, live streams launched, and traffic stalled to witness the spectacle. Within 30 minutes, clips of the protest had gone viral on X and TikTok.
This is just me personally and who I think is the best Evita. My opinion literally doesn't matter, so if you're pressed, put it in the comments and be engagement. So my personal favorite Evita is Patti LuPone. Reason for this being is that Patti LuPone has this devious rudeness to her that I absolutely adore in this character. I don't know if that's actually how Eva Perón was in real life. I don't know, I don't care, but her rendition of this Evita was so aggressive and I loved it. Also, this pair together, lovely. I also saw Caroline Bowman do this, not in person. I wish I did. I would murder someone too. But the thing is, it's just no other person has been able to sing the high notes with such crazy power like Patti LuPone. And I know some people are like, I can't even understand what she's saying. And low-key, I can't tell if I understand what she's saying or not. I just know all the lyrics, so now it makes sense to me. But Patti LuPone on all of her high notes, like in Rainbow High, or Screw the Middle Class, like literally so insane. Absolutely adorable. Close second would be Soul Pfeiffer. I don't know why I haven't even seen the whole thing, but literally I've just heard clips and I'm like, this is amazing.
What was meant to be a routine night for Rachel's glare turned into a very public reckoning. But it wasn't the chant alone that would define the moment. It was her response.
Yeah! Go, Queen. Yeah!
Backstage, Rachel Zegler was reportedly in a dressing room preparing for Act 1 when a staffer entered and warned her there's noise outside. They're chanting something, sources claim. She brushed it off at first, but once the chanting grew louder, audible even from the wings, everything shifted.
Rachel Zegler definitely didn't get the most love in movie theaters this year, where a Snow White movie cost Disney $250 million, so she decided to pivot her career back to doing theater, but now she's getting hate for that as well. And now Rachel Zegler is living in London doing the play of Evita, where she is playing the lead, and there's been a lot of iconic actresses to have that part before, like Elaine Paige and Madonna. The play of Evita, probably the most famous song is Don't Cry for Me Argentina, which was performed by Madonna in the 1996 movie that actually got her a Golden Globe win. So now Rachel Zegler's performing, and she is doing an amazing job, but a lot of people don't like how her and the play decided to organize this. But they've organized it so instead of Rachel Zegler singing inside the theater for the people who paid money for the ticket, she actually goes outside and sings on the balcony where people who didn't pay anything, and they've actually gotten crowds of over 600 people. But the problem is the people actually in the theater are really pissed off about it because tickets are going for as high as $500, but they're actually just watching a live stream of Rachel Zegler singing for a bunch of people who didn't pay anything. To be fair, this wasn't entirely Rachel Zegler's decision, but she did support the idea saying it makes the play for everyone. Well, except for actually the people who paid money to see it, which is kind of a problem. But with Adam Charles Paul, please subscribe to learn something.
Cast members say Rachel stormed out of her room and confronted the nearest production assistant, demanding answers. Why is no one stopping this? She allegedly yelled, "This is harassment. This is a setup." And then came a line that broke the internet. "You promised me they'd love me." The quote, according to an anonymous crew member who leaked the footage, was caught on a security cam backstage and has since been viewed millions of times.
Congratulations on all that suit, Rachel.
Sir.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Rachel, you got time to sign some autographs for us, Rachel? Rachel, Pete? Rachel, thank you, Rachel. Hey, you on the way out?
Zegler, red-faced and visibly shaken, reportedly accused the team of sabotaging her, claiming they never believed in her and let the wolves in through the front door. Meanwhile, the protests outside kept growing. Passers-by joined and news vans showed up. And one rogue protester even projected a massive image of Eva Peron onto the theater wall with the words, "This is not her," in blood red font.
Well, feels wonderful. Thank you.
Wonderful.
I'm getting on the car. Hold on. Here. Yeah, hold on.
All right. Congrats, Rachel. Good luck.
Theatergoers inside had no idea what was happening until ushers began delaying seating. Some attendees took out their phones and gasped as they saw themselves trending online just for being present. The chant never stopped. It only got louder, and Rachel, according to backstage sources, she refused to go on. Tell them to cancel the show. She allegedly shouted, "I never wanted to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities one have when I say that this has been the biggest adjustment of my life, like understanding the way my life operates, now being who I am and the things that I've been so fortunate to make. It comes with so much ground. I'm not stepping out there. If they're waiting to tear me apart, the producers beg her to continue." But by then the damage was done. This wasn't a casting controversy anymore. It was a full-blown uprising, and at its center was a young actress caught between Hollywood ambition and a legacy she never truly owned.
I hope everyone stops giving Rachel Zegler just such a hard time.
That's young women. Like, what is she supposed to do? You not made a bad decision and poured millions and millions of dollars into something that no one gave a about. Don't blame it on a 20-year-old girl. Like, it's just horrible. And also, it's just, it just relies. They know that just by throwing a few little things at her, the internet hates women, hates young women that do well. And so they just it's like throwing like,
grenade,
a little bit of like food into the sea of piranhas, and then it's just like, get her, and then that becomes the story, and it's really mean.
Backstage panic was spreading like wildfire. The chant from outside were no longer background noise. They were shaking the foundation of the building, and Rachel's glare, she was unraveling. According to multiple insiders who spoke under condition of anonymity, the actress became inconsolable within minutes of hearing the protest. At first she tried pacing, then yelling, then silence, but when she overheard a tech assistant jokingly say, "Well, they've got a point," everything snapped. Witnesses say Rachel stormed into control booth hallway, pointing at the staff and shouting, "Who the hell said that? Who thinks this is funny?" The entire backstage crew froze. It wasn't a dramatic outburst. It was a breakdown. She looked like someone who had just realized the internet turned on her. Said one crew member, like she finally knew this role wasn't saving her. It was sinking her, and the meltdown didn't end there. In a fit of desperation, Rachel allegedly began blaming everyone around her, the director, the costume designer, the marketing team, accusing them of making her look like a fraud. According to the leaked backstage video, now pulled from most platforms but mirrored across underground forums, she screamed, "I beg you to help me connect with a legacy you just wanted a headline." One assistant tried to calm her down. "Big mistake." Rachel reportedly lashed out at them verbally, saying, "You think this is my fault? You think I asked for this? I'm the face of this dumpster fire because you cast me." It was a total collapse of composure, and someone was filming the whole thing, not for revenge, for insurance, because by that point even the crew knew something bigger was falling apart, and they didn't want to be blamed when it all came crashing down. Meanwhile, word of the protests and Rachel's meltdown was reaching the higher-ups. Theater executives, publicists, and producers started arriving mid-performance to manage the situation. Some urged her to leave quietly. Others tried to rally her back on stage to save face. But Rachel reportedly told them all the same thing: "You want me to perform while they're chanting for my head." Her refusal wasn't just dramatic. It was strategic. According to one anonymous executive, she believed walking out would flip public sympathy back in her favor. She thought if she looked like the victim, the crowd would turn on itself, the source said. But what she didn't count on was what came next just hours after the protest footage exploded across social media and another bombshell dropped. And this time it came from someone who had worn the same shoes before her, a former Broadway actress who once played Evita in a regional production, posted a viral TikTok that set the internet ablaze. Her face was partially obscured, her voice altered slightly, but message cut through the noise like a blade. I'm not here to cancel Rachel, she began. I'm here to tell you that this role isn't about glamour or Instagram followers. It's about legacy, sacrifice, and culture. If you don't respect that, you have no business wearing the dress. The video racked up over 500,000 views in less than 12 hours. Comments flooded in calling her brave, real, and the Evita we deserved. But that wasn't the end of it. In a follow-up post, the same actress revealed private messages from others in the theater industry, including former castmates of Rachel's who had stayed silent during her rise. One message read, "She didn't study Ava, she didn't listen to the dialect coaches, she called the history boring, and said she was going to modernize it." Another claimed Rachel mocked the original costume designs as too old school and demanded something that looked more Hunger Games. Whether these claims were fully verified or not didn't matter. The narrative was already shifting now. Rachel wasn't just being protested by the public, she was being disowned by her peers. Even theater critics, some of whom initially supported her casting, began retracting their praise. One high-profile blogger tweeted, "We gave her the benefit of the doubt, but when you disrespect the legacy and alienate the culture, it's over." Industry professionals started sharing side-by-side videos comparing Rachel's performance to iconic Evitas from the past, Patti LuPone, Alina Roger, and the difference was staggering. Where the classics had passion and power, Rachel looked lost. She doesn't sing with conviction, she performs like she's in a high school musical. One comment read, "What hit hardest, though, was a growing consensus that Rachel wasn't just miscast, she never understood what she was stepping into, that this wasn't just a career misstep, it was hubris." And the former Evita actress who started the TikTok wave, she ended her final post with a line that went instantly viral: "Ava Perón didn't fight a revolution so she could be portrayed by someone who treats it like cosplay." That quote alone got printed on protest signs of the next night's performance. As pressure mounted, all eyes turned to production team. How did this even happen? Who thought this casting would work? The answers came faster than anyone expected in the form of leaked internal emails that painted an ugly picture of how Rachel's glare was chosen in the first place. One damning message allegedly sent by a senior producer just weeks before casting was announced read, "She's trending, she's controversial, she'll sell tickets, doesn't matter. If she can sing it, she can sell it." That sentence was reposted thousands of times, and every time it did, the narrative hardened. Rachel wasn't chosen to honor Eva Perón, she was chosen to go viral. The backlash wasn't just digital. Major sponsors began pulling out. A luxury fashion house that had partnered with the production to design stagwear quietly scrubbed all mentions of the show from their socials. Theater insiders reported a wave of refund requests, not just from disappointed fans, but from VIP patrons who now wanted to distance themselves from what some were calling the biggest casting disaster in West End history. One sponsor's rep told a tabloid, "We thought we were backing a revival, turns out we were funding a fire." Behind the scene, producers were in damage control mode. In emergency meetings, they reportedly discussed a pause and recast option, essentially halting the show for a week to replace Glare with a standby lead. But even that plan ran into problems. According to leaked documents, Rachel's contract had strict clauses preventing any understudy from replacing her without her written consent, a clause the team allegedly insisted on to protect the brand. That move, now revealed, only made her look worse. She blocked her own replacement. One critic posted, "That's not protection, that's ego." To calm things down, the official production page posted a vague statement thanking the passion of the community and promising adjustments going forward, but fans weren't buying it. Comments were flooded with one-word replies: "Too late, cowards, recast." Meanwhile, a change or petition demanding Rachel's removal passed 250,000 signatures, triple what it had just a week ago. And the worst part, even other cast members were starting to show cracks. One ensemble performer posted a cryptic Instagram story of a storm cloud emoji over Rachel's dressing room. The caption, "You can't outrun what you don't understand." The producers had wanted a star, they got a scandal, and by now it was clear the only thing louder than the chants outside the theater was a silence from the team that made it all happen. While the protests in London made headlines, a real storm was brewing an ocean away in Argentina, the country where Eva Perón isn't just a musical icon but a national symbol. And when news of Rachel Zegler's Evita reached Buenos Aires, the backlash was immediate and personal. Argentine media outlets began picking up the story under brutal headlines. Evita turned mockery, a Western disgrace, and Zegler's Evita sparks international outrage. Cultural critics didn't hold back. One viral editorial from Lane Zion wrote, "Casting an actress who sees Eva as a trending costume is not artistic liberty, it's eraser." But it wasn't just journalists sounding the alarm. Politicians, historians, and even members of Argentina's Peronist parties began weighing in. A representative from the Viva Perón Historical Foundation publicly condemned the production, calling it a shallow Western interpretation that strips Evita of a political fire and recasts her as a pop doll. The quote lit up Spanish-language Twitter within 24 hours. The #Vita Nazi started trending across Latin. It wasn't just about casting anymore. It had become a conversation about cultural ownership, historical integrity, and what happens when global entertainment tries to profit from stories it doesn't understand. Adding fuel to the fire, a viral clip from a past Zegler interview resurfaced, one in which she laughingly admits she didn't know anything real about Eva Perón before being cast, and that she was still Googling stuff halfway through rehearsal, that moment already tone deaf in. Context became devastating when clipped and subtitled in space. Argentine TikTok users began stitching the clip with footage of actual Eva Perón speeches, highlighting the absurdity of casting someone so disconnected from the legacy. One creator's post summed it up: "They turned our revolution into a meme." Soon after, the Eva Perón Museum in Buenos Aires released a short but scathing statement. While careful not to name Zegler directly, it read, "Eva belongs to the people of Argentina, not to trends, not to ticket sales." Sources close to the museum also revealed they were reconsidering future licensing agreements with international productions. In short, Rachel's Vita wasn't just a dislike, it had sparked a diplomatic embarrassment. Tourism officials, meanwhile, were reportedly furious that the West End production had been built as a global celebration of Eva's legacy. One Buenos Aires City Council member tweeted, "They are not celebrating our legacy, they are selling it badly." And in a final gut punch, one of Argentina's most beloved singers, who once played Evita on stage, publicly turned down an offer to perform at the show's closing gala, stating, "Eva lived with fire, this version burns nothing." Rachel Zegler may have thought she was leading a tribute, but to millions across Argentina, she's become something much worse, a cautionary tale of what happens when cultural reverence gets lost in translation and ego. After days of backlash, walkouts, protest chants, and international outrage, Rachel's glare finally broke her silence. But instead of calming the fire, she threw gasoline on it. The post appeared suddenly on her Instagram story, a black screen, white text, and a single sentence that would define the next wave of fallout. It read, "Let them scream, I won't break." No apology, no reflection, just defiant. And for critics who are waiting for any sign of humility, it was the ultimate insult. The story lasted just 24 hours, but screenshots flooded TikTok and Reddit within minutes. One tweet with a caption, "You already did break, sweetie," got over 300,000 likes. Fans, even former supporters, were stunned. Many interpreted the post as Rachel mocking protesters and critics, positioning herself as a victim in a controversy she helped ignite. Some pointed out that she had yet to respond to Latin American backlash, cultural leaders, or even the statement from the Eva Perón Foundation, but had time to post a passive-aggressive flex on Instagram. One viral TikTok laid it out simply: "We wanted accountability, we got attitude." Within hours, theatergoer began canceling future showings. Some even posted screenshots of their refunds, tagging the production's official pages with captions like, "Let me scream too from my couch." Major Broadway influencers and critics, many of whom had remained silent, finally started speaking out. One even posted, "You can't out-ego the people, ask Andrew Lloyd Webber how that worked out." The damage wasn't just emotional anymore, it was economic. But it wasn't just the fans who were outraged. Sources say producers were blindsided by the post. One insider described the atmosphere as chaos laced with rage. Another claimed Zegler was told explicitly by the PR team not to post anything, and she did it anyway. Some began whispering that she might be trying to torpedo the show on purpose, hoping for an early shutdown to escape further embarrassment. After all, if the narrative shift from failed lead to artistic martyr, it's easier to spin. In future interviews backstage, the vibe had turned toxic. Multiple crew members unfollowed Zegler on social media. Cast members began posting cryptic quotes about ego versus legacy and the power of silence. One even posted an Instagram reel walking past protester sign that read, "Eva Perón wasn't an influencer." The message was subtle but pointed. In the days that followed, even some of Rachel's Hollywood allies began quietly distancing themselves. A fan account noticed that several major actresses who previously liked her post no longer followed her. When a tabloid reached out for comment, Zegler's team declined. But the damage was done. She hadn't posted a statement, she'd posted a war cry, and now the audience was responding by walking away. The theater was supposed to be full, but when curtains rose the next evening, dozens of seats sat eerily empty. It wasn't a scheduling issue or weather delay, it was deliberate. Fans were walking away. The once hype revival of Evita, fronted by Rachel's glare, was now a ghost of itself. Ushers whispered about half-empty galleries and cancelled comps, but the most surreal moment of the night wasn't the empty seats, it was a silence. For the first time since opening night, there were no chants, no cheering, no applause, just uncomfortable stillness, because this wasn't just A performance in Amor, it was a reckoning according to attendees. A crowd that did show up felt tense and muted. Even as Glaire's entrance, once met with polite claps, was now a deadpan moment of disbelief. One reviewer described it as watching a ghost try to resurrect a corpse. Another noted the audience's reactions were robotic, like they were obligated to pretend they were enjoying it after the final blow. There was no standing ovation, just a thin layer of awkward claps scattered and hesitant a few. People even booed. The energy was gone. The illusion had shattered, and backstage that reality had fully set in. Sources say Zegler cried quietly in her dressing room away from the cameras this time, but the crew was no longer rushing to console her at this point. One source said, "We were just trying to get through the show. No one wanted to deal with another breakdown." Some staff began preparing for what they believed was inevitable, that the show would close early and that Rachel's tenure as Eva was effectively over. That night, reports emerged of emergency meetings between producers and investors. There was talk of bringing in a replacement, of pulling the plug before further damage, of rewriting history before it fully turned into mockery. One executive reportedly asked, "Do we even have a show anymore or just headlines?" Outside the street where protesters once stood was quiet, but on social media the fury was still burning. A new viral thread showed side-by-side videos of Evita's most iconic moments versus Rachel's interpretations. The difference was so stark it felt like satire. One post simply read, "From revolution to rehearsal." And perhaps the most haunting comment of the night came from a former fan who tweeted, "We didn't cancel Rachel, she can't let herself the second. She made Eva bow to the theater lights dimmed, but the spotlight didn't leave, it followed her into silence, and what once promised a legacy-defining moment had now become something darker, a cautionary tale, a stage soaked not in applause but in regret."